So here we have a Marconi CM-11. The transmitter's tuned to around 12 megahertz at the moment into a dummy load, and through a SWR meter and power meter, and also got a scope coupled to the dummy load, loosely coupled. And this is it on CW, high power. You see it's measuring the frequency there, just over 12 megahertz. Peak to peak is around about 200 volts, and the RMS value is around about 70 volts. Right, I'll just put it onto phone. So on phone the output should be around about 30 watts. There's no microphone attached to it, so it will just be a sine wave on the scope. So this is it on phone. Less amplitude, it should be 30 watts. We've got around about 95 volts peak to peak, and around about 31, 32 volts RMS. I might be able to peak that a little bit with the antenna tuner. I haven't tuned it up since I've been here this evening. Yeah, I'll peak a little bit. So that's a little bit more. We're getting around about 100 volts peak to peak and about 33 volts RMS. That's on phone. Now I switch to modulated carrier wave, and this should put 1 kilohertz tone on the signal, and we should get something like about 70 watts output. You can hear the tone in the background, and you see the modulation there. And if I slow down the time base, you'll see the modulation. And it's more than 100% modulated, which I guess is okay for MCW, but it could cause some harmonics. So just stop that, and it gets a little bit confused. The scope gets a bit confused when you've got a modulated signal going into it. So it's measuring the frequency at 7 megahertz, which is obviously wrong. But the peak-to-peak voltage there is 194 volts, and the RMS is measuring at 44 volts. So there we go. I'll just go and calculate the output wattages. The reason I'm doing this little test is that I don't believe either of these two, these antenna tuner, the antenna tuner here, or the SWR meter here. This one, it's showing 100 watts on CW, but on phone it's only showing around about 30 watts. So that's on MCW, 30 watts. On phone, it's showing about 22 watts. And on CW, it's showing around about 90 watts there. Just try peaking it a little bit. More or less 100 watts, which I think is what the scope was showing as well. On 50 ohm dummy load, we should be getting around about a couple of 100 volts peak to peak, 70 volts RMS. Okay, so there we go. Little test. I'll do some calculations and see what we're getting on the other modes.